Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome back to the program Legal Matters. कानूनी मशवरे हम आपसे immigration की discussion अब करते हैं, and we're going to be talking about these issues about the spouse requirements and the visas. उसकी क्या ज़रूरत होती है, and these are the key things what people have been asking, so we're going to talk about that. Shahid, obviously we had a number of people, and there's a lot of confusion about £18,600. Has it come down? From my understanding, it hasn't come down. What's going on a review कर रहे हैं, and it possibly it will come down. Now, is पे थोड़ा सा आप shed light करें so that we can
that's right. What the current legal position is that the minimum income requirement stands as it is, 18,600. Obviously, it is being appealed. It's gone to the High Court now, and obviously it's under review. So a decision is due imminently. We are all eagerly awaiting for it. It might come down, or it might be that the law judges agree with the Home Office and say, well, it is the prerogative of the government to set whatever level of income they deem to be fit. You know, so it can go either way.
मगर question ये आया था, they did previously, आपको पता है, disproportionately उन्होंने कहते this was unfair. They said this was unreasonable.
It was unreasonable.
The judges did agree that this was totally unreasonable.
Yeah, in the court of first instance, when it was contested this issue, obviously the judge ruled that the requirement of 18,000 was disproportionate, and that's why it's been challenged. But the thing is, it doesn't mean that the Court of Appeal will also agree with that analysis. They might come to a completely different.
But isn't a situation whereby a very good case was put up, and they've said that on the basis of when you have the minimum wage and what the going rate is in the UK, how can you expect a British subject then to stand and go outside these fixed pay rules which you already have? And then on one hand you have this, on the other hand this has been levelled on you.
I mean, I can quite clearly see that there can be an argument for being unreasonable and unfair, and that's why it's being challenged in the courts. But nonetheless, the law judges might turn around and say that is down, for the Home Office or the government to set the limits, regardless whether they appear on the face value to be unfair or disproportionate. It is quite interesting to see, what the final decision is, because I'm not too optimistic that it might come down. It could be that they take a very strict stance and say that, look, it is the discretion of the government to make the policy, because otherwise you are restricting the government from exercising their supremacy of the parliament and trying to draft or legislate.
This is the same question, same issue that the courts did take into account and did say that this is a bit unfair, unreasonable, and they did say it was a bit disproportionate. पहलों का decision यही बना हुआ है.
It's just gone to a review.
It's gone to review.
And the government needs to review it. It's not that the government needs to climb down and say, oh, we are sorry, we put our hands up and we're going to reduce it. They just need to review it. And after the review, they say, well, you know what, our initial assessment was correct, and we are sticking to it.
Or they may just do a little discount reduction, but the requirements might get even more stricter.
Well, I mean, that's true. So if they have to show a degree of flexibility on the financial side, they might make other requirements more stricter. So you would be...
that's right. So the rules are the same, 18,600 as per it is. The 22,400 is for a person with a child, and thereafter 2,400. So you'd have fixed that. So agar aapki situation mein, this is how it is going to be. Now let's just go on to talk about on the issues about the spouse requirements, the income threshold. Now we just talked about 18,600, but a spouse ke bare mein, let's just talk about the requirements for the person who wants to call his spouse over. So we did talk about they do need 6 to 12 months and could you wait?
Obviously, if you're claiming that you meet the minimum income threshold, then you need to provide some kind of evidence to back that up. So a normal way would be to actually provide your bank statement, which clearly shows your salary being paid into your account. Normally, you would need a 6 months bank statements just
ये जो 6 months to 12 months की जो उन्होंने salary का जो उन्होंने किया, there has to be, but that has to be 6 months salary coming into your bank, showing the same figures. The statements have to correspond as well.
Well, I mean, if you are on a fixed income, then it would be the same figure, you know. If you are given a bonus of some kind, maybe there is a rise, or if you start working less hours, pro rata, maybe there might be a drop in your income.
The reason I'm saying that, because sometimes they pick on this when आपकी income tally नहीं करें with your bank statements, and that can become a problem. And sometimes statement miss हो गए और उनके दो statement चले गए, उस पे कुछ और लिखा हुआ था, and they don't miss the other statements.
Yeah, but I don't see why there would be a missing statement, because it's quite easy for you to go to your local bank branch and request for a duplicate statement. So
no, but it's a home office I'm just talking about. So you got to make sure that your income tallies with your statement.
That's right.
That's the position we're talking.
Yeah, so it's not just it's just not that you would just be sending the statements on their own. You have to then send further follow-up documentary evidence. So you would have an employment contract or letter from your employer stating that to confirm that this person is actually working for them, how many hours he or she is working, how long is the employment contract, what is their salary, and obviously you'll have pay slips to back that up. So that goes together with the bank statement. Bank statements on their own would not be sufficient to discharge the burden of proof.
So what we're looking for is a 6 months to 12 months pay slip statements that has to be required, a letter from your employer confirming that you're in full-time employment and this is your income and it's a permanent job.
Yeah. And if you've been working for more than a year, then you would have to provide a P60 to show how much tax has been paid.
Now, besides that, one of the key requirements will be also that the person needs to show that they have the accommodation, they have adequate accommodation.
Adequate accommodation, that's right, yeah.
So that has to be taken into account. Now, for that, they have to get a letter from either from an estate agent or from the council.
A local estate agent, if they are willing to come out and give you an independent assessment on their letterhead, then that might be sufficient for you to prove that you've got sufficient accommodation. Otherwise, you can approach your local council and they would be quite happy to come out and give you a written report of the suitability of the accommodation. Again, there is a minimum charge for it.
Exactly.
Varies from council to council.
And most importantly, in the spouse visa will be the relationship subsisting and it's still continuing.
Continuing and subsisting, obviously.
ये थोड़ा सा बताएं so that people understand. थोड़ा viewers को बताते चलते हैं that ये बातें उनके very important हैं आजकल.
That's right.
And they're making it very strict. People from EU outside. So this is why there's a lot of spouse को अपने बुलाना चाह रहे. They're struggling to get them in there because of some of these issues. This is the reason I'm.
Well, obviously, the government stance is that your marriage is not really a real marriage, and the fact that you live here and your spouse lives hundreds of miles, thousands of miles abroad, it's difficult for the Home Office to see how you are keeping your marriage ongoing, subsisting and continuing. So this is the stance they will take, but obviously the onus or the burden of proof is on you to say that no, that is not the case. The marriage is still a very real fact of life, but this is for the person applying for the spouse visa to prove that that is the case, not for the Home Office to disprove you. Okay, so they'll say we refuse your application because we don't believe your marriage is genuine, ongoing and subsisting. And how do you plead? So it's then for you as a person to then say, well, that is not the case, and the reason being we've got XYZ documentary evidence. You've got a valid marriage certificate. Why would you have a certificate if you had never any intention of getting married? So obviously there's a lot of things, levers that you have to pull to then come up with a bundle of evidence which then goes there to refute Home Office stance that yes, the marriage is genuine and subsisting.
Exactly. So I think the reality will be that anybody in this situation, agar koi situation mein hai, they've got some issues, then you can contact us and we'll be more than happy to help you. आपका हमारे details आ रही होंगी screen पे. We can help you if you want to talk privately. We've given telephone contact details from the control room, and we'll be more than happy to help you and advise you on that one, because it's very important to get that right. Shahin Sahab, obviously we have discussed this in quite detail. इसका अगर किसी का refuse हो जाता है, then obviously they're going to have a big issue. It's going to be the appeal process is going through, and you know the situation in this, the new laws, regulations. तो इसका थोड़ा सा बताएं what the people then do.
Regarding
spouse के regarding spouse, if there's a problem related to that, if they don't accept your income, they reject your income, you've provided everything, and you're just slightly under the threshold.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you slightly under the threshold, you can lodge an appeal, you know, to challenge the Home Office decision. That is always open to you. But is it not far better to make sure that you are meeting all the minimum requirements as set out by the government to avoid that situation of being where the government or the Home Office UKBA can turn around and say, well, we are sorry, but you haven't actually met the criteria.
I think one of the questions that we should be addressing as well is that if somebody is slightly short in income, they do have an alternative, like, for example, आपकी savings होती हैं वो count कर दें उसमें.
Yeah.
So it's important.
Well,
views को
again, the thing so is that if your income is slightly below the minimum income requirement, then at that time you got to present evidence of your savings. Why would you not disclose it, waiting for the application to be refused, and then say, oh, by the way, I did have savings, you know? So it just makes sense to go through the application thoroughly, comprehensively, and if you are falling short of anything, or in a majority of the cases it would be the income threshold, then you got to be able to show that you have got savings, because that's when you need to show it, not after the application is refused. It'll be too late.
Absolutely, बिल्कुल सही है. And also हम अपने views को ये बताते चले that the person who will be coming over to the country, he or she has to do the B1 test and life in UK test. Now that's very important. Again, इसका आपको समझना चाहिए that if you don't pass them, then you're not going to be entitled. And this is again आप थोड़ा से बताएं so that the viewers understand.
That's right. It's again in black and white. It's very clear. The rules changed in October last year. Everybody who's coming here on a spouse visa must be able to speak English to a minimum standard of B1, and also they are required to pass the Life in UK test. That's a clear
standard
requirement. Yeah.
This is going to be standard across the board. So आपको बता दें, so इन चीज़ों का आप पहले से सोच लें, preparation कर लें, and you can make sure that you've got the proper job, 6 month statements, and all these issues. We'll be more than happy to discuss these issues if you have any. We'll be more than help you. Shahin, but we just mentioned about these things. What about जो हमने domestic violence के बारे में mention कर रहे थे? We said it before the break. We're going to talk about that. There are a number of women in this situation where their marriage जो है ना subsisting नहीं है.
That's right.
And that comes down to the genuine issue about is this genuine or not. So the Home Office saying, look, this marriage happened, and this is a lot of these issues are breaking up. Marriages are breaking up. Sorry.
Yeah.
Now come to that. Talk about the domestic. I know there's legitimate ones, and there are the other ones.
Well, again, if you came here on a spouse visa and you were granted a spouse visa, and you're coming towards the renewal or extension of that visa, but unfortunately the marriage is not surviving and there is an element of violence, that doesn't mean that you automatically need to go back to your current country of origin. The law, the government clearly recognizes the need to accommodate those women who have been subjected to domestic violence, and there is a separate visa category for the women under those circumstances to actually apply for indefinite leave to remain on the grounds that they were subjected to domestic violence. Okay, how do you go about proving that you were subject of domestic violence? It's a completely different question.
Yeah, let's just go on to that. Domestic violence is, again, Home Office do look each case on its merit.
That's right.
Each case has to fall within the guidelines of a domestic violence. It's not something what getting domestic violence, because you have some
problems. You can't just say, oh, I've been subject to, or I have suffered a domestic violence. You got to back it up with some documentary evidence. So obviously if somebody is going through a period where they're being subject to, exposed to physical abuse, violence, or mental torture, then you got to take some steps to say that, hang on a sec, this is not right, and I'm going to deal with it. So have you actually reported the incident to the police? Is there an incident report? Have you gone to your doctor and sought for medicine or advice from your doctor? These kind of things are quite key for your immigration application under domestic violence to be successful or otherwise.
Domestic violence equally is very important to not only have the evidence, which is the primary, the most important thing you need to have, but also that kabhi your day that somebody gets into domestic violence, null and void they're in that period, so they have to go through the right channels to make sure that if it's domestic violence, if there's a marriage which they had taken place, that they're out of that, and if they are applying for outside for a visa to be on domestic violence, that the marriage is no longer subsisting.
That's obviously
because the marriage
common sense
that come to an end.
It would be either it's come to an end or you are in an abusive relationship. There is only two alternatives. You carry on putting up with the abuse, or you say, well, I'm calling it a day, and you try to move on and start a new life. Now the legal position is, if you say I want to move on, well, you can't unless you actually report it to the authorities and say that I have suffered from physical abuse, and that is the reason I have taken these steps of separating or dissolving the marriage. And if you do that, then it's a very good chance that the authorities will look at your case on the merits of it in a compassionate way, and they would you would be allowed discretionary leave to remain here, which would through domestic violence
from
on the grounds of domestic violence.
So that they have to pursue that. Agar aapke koi situation aisi hoti hai, you feel where you want some advice, then more than happy to help you. I mean, sort of cases kar chuke hain, we can give you guidance on this one, we can help you with this one, and our experts, lawyers and solicitors can be the right people to guide you, unless you know some people who can help you. But again, it's costly or if you go and speak to some solicitors, because you need to find the right information, and some of these people normally they go to the free advice, and I think they have to do it properly. So Torah's happy to get information there. We're happy to help you and guide you where we can do. Again, just coming back on to discuss we had a few calls where people have been talking about call Mushtaq Saab ki jo aayi thi. Let's just go on to that one.
Mushtaq Saab, I believe is from Manchester.
From Manchester. He's got this married to a Romanian wife, and he has a child. Now, the Pakistani embassy refused to give passport to the child. The Romanian lady can't get one because they're not given. They is becoming like a stateless child at the moment, which can't be a category.
On the facts of the case being presented to us, it looks quite an interesting case, because under normal circumstances, a child born to a Pakistani person should automatically be entitled to a Pakistani nationality. So I cannot see what are the reasons, regardless of the status of that Pakistani person in UK, whether you are legal or illegal or overstayer, you are still entitled to pass on your nationality to your own child, So
and he's a father.
So I find it difficult to believe, what are the reasons. I mean, obviously this is not a straightforward case on the face of it. We need more information from Mushtaq Saab, but I'm sure we can assist him in his application. In his application.
What about his wife? She's Romanian. She's in the EU. She's come over now, we don't know for a fact how long they've been here, because they have a ban from benefits. They have a ban, and he said that she's not working.
Well, if she wants to be exercising her treaty rights, then she needs to show that she's either actively looking for work or is being employed and is working. Granted that she had a child, and for that period she would be deemed not fit to work, but apart from that, what was the employment history prior to that, and what is she doing now? If she wants to exercise her rights for her partner to stay with her and be allowed to stay in UK, then she needs to show with concrete evidence that she is in a position to actively seek work, or she's already working.
And that's under the EU treaty rights.
Under the EU treaty rights.
Plus Mushtaq Sahab ke paas bhi, he has his own rights within the, holding a Pakistani passport and Shinakti card.
Yeah.
You know, he does have his rights. Again, Mushtaq Sahab ko ye kahenge that aapka, it's a complex issue.
Yeah.
Agar aap chahte hain, you know, we can help you in this matter, we can advise you. But obviously, hamare paas full information nahi hai. Like my colleague said, we need more information and we can help you. If you want to give us a call, take the email address. We'll be more than happy to help you on that one. Is there anything else you want to add on to that, Shahzad?
No, that's really, I mean, we need more facts before we can properly advise him.
ठीक है और जो हमारी जो कॉल आई थी मोहम्मद साहब की we was talking about the landlord issue, about the deposit not being paid, been up to 8 months. Obviously there's a serious breach on this one.
That's right, like we discussed earlier on in the program, if a landlord has taken a deposit, then he or she ought to transfer it into a deposit scheme within the first 30 days. So in Mr. Muhammad's case, the landlord has taken his time to actually transfer the money across, and from the notes, it looks that it took him almost 8 months before that money was forwarded on to the deposit scheme. So clearly there is a breach of the rules as they stand currently. So Mr. Muhammad has got a good case of actually pursuing the landlord for breach of the bond scheme, or for the...
So Mr. Muhammad has got a potential case to bring forward if he wishes to.
On the face of the facts given, obviously he talked about joint tenancy. If there were two tenants, joint tenants, and both of them have actually left the property, and somehow Mr. Muhammad has ended up living there, then he can't bring a legal case against a breach of deposit scheme, because he wasn't in effect the tenant. The money actually didn't belong to him. However, if he was or is one of those tenants who is continuing to carry on
with the tenancy,
with the tenancy, then he has got a potential claim.
Fine, fantastic. Shukriya for that. Mohammed Sahab, you must have heard your position on this one. It is rather a bit complicated, but you've been addressed some of the issues on this. We'll be more than happy to help you on this and advise you what you can do and then what is the way forward. But surely you must have got the information from the program tonight. Channel viewers, obviously we now come to the end of the program. We want to thank everybody who's been interactively taking part in this program over this period and today's program. Or we're going to have some changes coming up in this program, because our legal matters is not going to be coming on Tuesdays. It's going to be coming on a Sunday now. So please make a note of this one. So the program will be coming on Sundays. और ये program हमारा दोबारा restart होगा, reschedule होगा from the 27th of April. So it won't be the Sunday coming, it'll be the following Sunday after the bank holiday. Sorry, हमारी थोड़ी सी trouble हो रही with the back feed coming on there as I'm talking to you. So our legal matters will come back on air, not on Tuesdays, but it'll be on the 27th of April, which is a Sunday. The new time will be 3 o'clock. So आप इसका note कर लें. Obviously promo चलेगा, you'll hear more about this, and so the people will be kept up to date. And like I said, आपके पास जो issues regarding immigration or litigation or representation, we're here to help you and guide you and advise you as the best we can. And obviously it's an interactive program. And again, viewers to ये कहेंगे that आप अपने calls रखें. The number of calls are trying to come through today, but for one reason or the other, we'll call drop हो गई. And keep trying till you get through, and we're here to help you. Keep your questions short, to the point, so we can help you. And I'd like to thank everybody for watching Legal Matters Kanuni Mashre. Myself and my colleague Shahid Mansoor will be here to discuss these issues in a couple of weeks' time on a Sunday, which is our new time, and you will be hearing from this in the next couple of weeks coming ahead. So once again, shukriya for watching Legal Matters, and Ainda ki ijazat hai, and we'll be back with the Legal Matters again in not too long.